You have prepared, you know you are ready, and you are still afraid to start. Afraid people will notice, afraid of what happens when they do, afraid that success itself is somehow the wrong move. This is not insecurity, and it is not self-sabotage. It is one of the oldest survival mechanisms in the human brain, and it evolved because standing out in the wrong group at the wrong moment was genuinely how people died. In a group of 150 people, visibility was dangerous. Think about what standing out actually meant for your ancestor. You have more food than others. You have more status. You are more successful. What happens next? Others want what you have. Others form alliances around the perception that you are accumulating too much. Others work to bring you back down to the group mean. The tallest trees catch the most wind, and in a small prehistoric group, the tallest person attracted the most social hostility. In every human society ever studied by anthropologists, this dynamic appears. It is called leveling behavior, and it is universal across cultures, continents, and every type of group structure ever documented. Leveling behavior is the set of tools a group uses to suppress individuals who rise above the norm. Gossip, social exclusion, ridicule, withdrawal of cooperation, coalition building against the person who is getting too big. These were not malicious acts in an evolutionary sense. They were the group's mechanism for maintaining balance and preventing any one person from accumulating enough power to destabilize the whole structure. And they worked. The person who accumulated too much and displayed it openly was cut down. The person who succeeded quietly, shared what they had visibly, and performed modesty in public survived. Your brain learned this pattern over thousands of generations and encoded it as a standing instruction. Do not stand out. Do not attract the leveling mechanism. Make yourself small before they make you small. This is also the evolutionary origin of impostor syndrome. Not a psychological dysfunction, not a trauma response. An ancient risk assessment. When you achieve something real and immediately feel like a fraud waiting to be exposed, your brain is running a calculation it was built to run. Someone is going to notice, someone is going to feel threatened. The leveling will begin. Better to minimize now before they do it for you. Preemptive self-reduction as survival strategy. Why does it feel like shame specifically? Because shame was the mechanism. Shame is the internal experience of what public leveling would feel like. The exposure, the loss of status, the withdrawal of social support, the reduction back to the mean. Your brain rehearses the punishment before it happens, pre-activates the fear response, and uses it to modify your behavior before the group has to intervene at all. You shrink yourself voluntarily because voluntary shrinking was always safer than being forced down publicly. The shame is not the problem. The shame is the protection. It just fires now in a context where it no longer serves the purpose it was built for. Here is the part that surprises people. High achievers experience this more intensely than average performers, not less. The more genuinely successful you actually become, the louder the internal alarm gets, because the gap between your current position and the leveling threat grows larger with each success. More achievement means more exposure means more risk, and the brain scales its warning signal accordingly. The people who appear most confident from the outside are often running the loudest internal alarm. They have simply learned to act despite it, or learned to interpret the alarm as a sign that something real is happening rather than a sign to stop. This also explains why public recognition feels more frightening than private success. Private success can be kept quiet, shared selectively, managed carefully. Public recognition cannot be taken back. The moment the people in your social network register your achievement, the social calculus changes in ways you cannot control. Expectations shift upward, comparisons activate, alliances realign, and the leveling mechanism in people around you wakes up, whether they are consciously aware of it or not. Your brain reads all of this as threat data before you have consciously processed the compliment. There is a related phenomenon called tall poppy syndrome. In cultures with strong collective norms, individuals who visibly exceed the group are actively criticized, undermined, and excluded. This behavior appears on every continent, in every era, in every type of society ever studied. Australia calls it tall poppy syndrome. Scandinavia calls it the law of Jante. Japan says the nail that sticks up gets hammered down. The specific language varies by culture and century. The social impulse behind all of them is identical, and it was not invented by any particular culture. It evolved as a regulation mechanism, and every human group inherited it because every human group needed it. What is happening in the brain during the fear response? The same threat network that activates for physical danger activates for social exposure. The amygdala does not distinguish between a predator and a disapproving crowd. Both register as survival threats. Both trigger the same hormonal cascade. Cortisol rises, heart rate increases, the mind narrows to the immediate source of danger, peripheral thinking shuts down. This is why standing in front of an audience can feel physically dangerous. Why submitting important work can trigger the same physiological response as a near accident. Why the moment before a public achievement sometimes feels worse than the moment of failure. Visibility itself can be the trigger without any negative feedback attached to it at all. The brain flags the exposure, registers the potential for social judgment, and fires the alarm regardless of what the judgment will actually be. You can receive praise and still experience the alarm because the alarm does not wait for the outcome. It fires at the moment of exposure, which is when the threat was always highest. You can override the response, but you cannot delete it. The override happens in the prefrontal cortex, which evaluates the real current risk and issues a correction to the emotional signal. It requires conscious effort every single time the alarm fires. The fear does not go away with experience. You just get faster at talking your nervous system down from the ledge. Every person who has ever built something publicly was running this same ancient system in the background. The voice that says, "Make yourself smaller," is not your enemy. It is your oldest ancestor still trying to protect you from a threat that once was real, in a group that no longer exists, in a world that is completely gone. The fear of visibility also produces a specific cognitive distortion called the spotlight effect. Psychological research consistently shows that people significantly overestimate how much others notice their mistakes, their appearance, their performance, and their failures. You spill something at a dinner and believe everyone saw it. You stumble over a word in a presentation and believe everyone heard it. The reality is that other people are primarily focused on themselves and their own performance, not yours. But your brain evolved in a context where the group genuinely was monitoring you for signs of weakness or deviance, and it has not received the update that most of the people around you are too absorbed in their own social monitoring to pay close attention to yours. This does not mean visibility is safe. It means the brain overestimates the degree of monitoring, not that monitoring does not exist. The correction is not to believe no one is watching. The correction is to reduce the estimate from everyone always to some people sometimes. That reduction is enough to make action possible where the overestimate made action feel impossible. The ancient system is right that visibility has costs. It is wrong about the magnitude. And the gap between the actual cost and the estimated cost is exactly the space where everything worth doing happens.